I'm diving another one of the current-swept passes of BC's southern Gulf Islands, in this case off Galiano Island. In my opinion, these passes provide some of the best diving for a one-day outing from Vancouver. There's a couple of tricks, one being that there's only one ferry arrival in the morning and one departure in the evening, so you can't afford to miss the ferry. And sometimes it requires a bit of swimming, as in this case, the entrance point was about 1.5 kilometers from the actual pass. The passes form restrictions to tidal exchange and hence can generate strong currents. The currents in turn feed the abundance of bottom-dwelling suspension feeders like these fringe filament worms. Dense colonies of suspension feeders like these worms can deplete the surrounding water of food, and hence the colonies depend upon the current to bring them their supper. Another thing the currents do is stir up the water column. In the summer, when phytoplankton growth can be limited by nutrients, this stirring can stimulate more productivity. So the currents don't just bring the dinner, they help grow it as well. So when I'm diving one of these passes, I'm not surprised to see a superabundance and diversity of bottom-dwelling suspension feeders. I had hoped to maybe see a school of black rockfish on this dive, but in fact I saw almost no rockfish, not even copper rockfish or quillbacks. They seem to be almost completely absent. In theory, current areas are good for lingcod as well as suspension feeders, but I saw only 2 lingcod on this dive. Fortunately, this one was sitting on eggs, so maybe there's some hope for the future. I was filming this kelp greenling as it swam about me, delicately trying to avoid getting pricked by the sea urchins. I was just about ready to end the dive when I caught something out of the corner of my eye. There, a head sticking out from under a rock, was a juvenile wolf eel. I spent my surface interval on the surface and then got back down as quickly as I could and tried to get a better shot of the wolf eel. But he wasn't being very friendly, and I think I was probably being a little too aggressive and trying to get my camera close to him. Since he wasn't going to come out and give me a good shot, I decided I would take a selfie as I ascended up through the band of plumose anemones and then into the line of kelp. I think the upright stalks you see here are probably walking kelp. In places like this, you can basically just drift along on the surface and see all sorts of interesting life. I was running out of time, but I didn't want to stop diving just yet. So as I swam back, I dove along the walls and generally headed in the direction of my exit point. Drifting along the wall over an empty black abyss, I saw this ledge. I thought it looked like a parapet festooned in white decorations from which a royal family might make some happy announcement. So I glided in to get a close-up, and as I steadied myself, I realized the ledge was moving under me. And when I looked down, there they were, Puget Sound king crabs. The center of attention was this largest crab. Its carapace absolutely covered in barnacles, and one snail. And I assumed that it was the female, the queen king crab. They're all waiting around for her to slip into something more comfortable by molting, which she seems to be in bad need of, and then they can mate. It was hard to just sit on the surface waiting out my surface interval, but as soon as it was done, down I went to have a look at the king crabs. I wasn't just running out of time, but I was also running out of battery on my camera, so I figured this was probably going to be my one chance. I wanted to pick up some of the crabs and verify their sex, but they seem to be just clinging onto the rock, so I decided best not to disturb them too badly. There was at least 5 crabs, the what I assume is the big female in the middle, and then 4 presumably males all around her. And there might have been more. I didn't explore farther down the ledge. Well, there were lots of other things I would have liked to have done. Maybe set up a time lapse, check farther down the cliff, seen what else was hanging around. But as I mentioned earlier, one ferry a day leaving the island, so it was time to go.